My name's Suzie from Suzie Flynn Coaching, and I'm a mindset and business coach for executive assistants. So in today's session, we're going to learn how imposter syndrome is affecting your career success. So let's imagine for a moment that there's an executive assistant called Sandra, and her boss has put her forward for a promotion to senior executive assistant and team leader. Her boss believes that she's qualified for this role and she's ready to take the next step. The role involves taking on new responsibilities and also looking after a team of assistants. So I want to address 3 key points that I'm going to address in today's session. So firstly, what is imposter syndrome? Next, what are the symptoms of imposter syndrome? And lastly, how can we address imposter syndrome? So according to the Harvard Business Review, imposter syndrome can be defined as a collection of feelings of inadequacy that persist despite evident success. But it's more than just a few moments of feeling bad or a few sleepless nights. In fact, when imposter syndrome strikes, we're thinking thoughts that are coming from a place of fear. And this in turn triggers our sympathetic nervous system, and we go into what's called fight and flight. And our body gets ready to defend itself from a perceived threat. This fires off the stress hormone of adrenaline and cortisol, and we start to notice the physiological change in our body, which can result in things such as a speeding heart, shallow breathing, tense muscles, and increased perspiration. Whether our thoughts are about a saber-toothed tiger chasing us, or just all the negative internal stories that we have in our head, worrying about all the awful things that might happen to us if we are finally found out to be a fraud. What actually happens when imposter syndrome kicks in is it triggers the part of our brain that wants to protect us from shame, embarrassment, and rejection. These hormones cause other biochemical reactions in our body, which are triggers for our emotions, which in turn feed our thoughts, our negative thoughts, and affect us on a physiological level. Now, all of this actually happens at a subconscious level and is governed by the ANS, the autonomic nervous system, which is responsible for processes which we don't have control over, such as our heart beating, blood pumping around our body, and hair growth, for example. Our stress response to a situation is actually in the subconscious mind. What does that mean? Well, it means that it's automatic. It happens automatically and we don't have control over that stress response. So when we start running these disaster stories in our head of what happens if I do this, what if I do this could go wrong, all the stories that we start telling ourselves, when we do this, it triggers a stress response in our system and we start running off low levels of adrenaline. We're constantly worrying about what ifs and analysing things and imagining the worst case scenario and constantly feeding ourselves negative stories. So in its most basic form, imposter syndrome is actually there to keep us safe and to protect us from that shame, embarrassment, and rejection. So let's learn a little bit more about Sandra. So Sandra's gone into work on Friday morning and she's had a normal one-to-one with her executive. And in that one-to-one, her executive talks about all of her hard work, her achievements, her accomplishments, and he says that he would like to put her forward for a promotion to senior executive assistant and team leader. Now, although Sandra accepts this in the meeting with her boss, there's lots of things that are going through her mind in this moment. She secretly doubts her ability as an assistant and thinks that she doesn't know enough, that she's not good enough, even though she's got 10 plus years of experience and 3 of those at C-level. Sandra actually thinks her boss made a mistake putting her forward for this role and doesn't understand why he chose her, especially when there's so many other capable assistants in the organisation as capable as her, if not more, and she doesn't understand why he chose her over the other assistants, which in her mind she feels would do a better job in this role. She just feels that she doesn't deserve this opportunity. What's so special about her? She is plagued by insecurity and she worries that her boss is going to realise that he's made a mistake in putting her forward for this role and that in fact she's not actually qualified enough at all. She doesn't have the experience for what it takes to be a senior executive assistant and team leader. So instead of actually reminding herself of the skill sets and the experience that she's gained over her 10-year career as an assistant, she just keeps focusing on lack, on the skill gaps in her CV and what she hasn't achieved yet. Just continuing to be hard on herself and focusing on what she isn't able to do in this present moment, instead of focusing on what she has achieved over her career. In fact, when her colleagues congratulate her on her promotion, on her success, she just backs it off and she just said, oh, I just got lucky, or he was in a good mood, my boss, or it was just time and place. She doesn't actually own her success. She doesn't accept that she's worthy of having this new role, that she's good enough. She just has this constant feeling that she's going to get caught out and they're actually going to realise, her boss and the company, that they've made a mistake in promoting Sandra into this new role. In fact, she has a pattern of putting others first, including her friends, her colleagues, her family, etc., and actually putting her dreams on the shelf. She puts other people's aspirations before hers. And the reason that she does this is because it masks her fear that she won't be able to succeed if she tries something new. She doesn't own her success. In fact, she hasn't owned her success for years now, even though her colleagues have told her time and time again that she is a great assistant. It just doesn't seem to sink in. She just doesn't seem to want to or be able to own that success. The truth is, she's been feeling inadequate and like a fool for so many years now, and being put forward for this promotion, it's just brought up all of those emotions to the surface. She doesn't share her ideas enough in meetings, she doesn't ask enough questions because she's always afraid that she's going to get caught out, or she thinks that she's going to ask a stupid question and that she's going to come across as someone that's inexperienced and doesn't know what they're doing, so she stays quiet. However, on the surface, she comes across as confident and self-assured, but actually inside, she feels like a fraud. Sandra doubts her abilities, and privately, she thinks she's the only person that feels like this. She feels alone in everything that she's going through and everything that she's thinking and feeling. She attributes her success to other people, such as Ryan in IT, who helped her with a technical issue in relation to a presentation she needed to get to investors. She attributes her success to other people instead of owning her success and actually acknowledging that she was the one that created that success and that positive outcome for her team. Sandra constantly feels that she's going to get caught out, that people are going to realise that she's not good enough, that she's not qualified for the new role or even for the role she's about to take on. She just feels like a fraud, and she's waiting for her boss to realise that actually he shouldn't have promoted her, he should have promoted someone else. And these constant feelings drag her down every single day, and they keep her doubting herself. But what she doesn't know is that up to 70% of adults have admitted to having the crisis of confidence, which is known as imposter syndrome. So now that we know a little bit more about what imposter syndrome is and how it's been affecting Sandra in her career and in taking this promotion, now let's address what we can do to tackle imposter syndrome so that Sandra can feel more positive, more accepting of her abilities, and move into that role with confidence, knowing that she is the best person for the job, so that she can start owning her success, owning her abilities, and really step into who she is meant to be. So as Sandra goes home that night, she starts to reflect on everything that she's been feeling since she found out about the promotion on that Friday morning, and she decides to book in an emergency call with her coach to discuss what has come up for her. Now, her coach shares 5 key points with her that really help her address her imposter syndrome so that she can start to move forward in her career, owning her success. Now, the first key point that her coach shares with her is acknowledge and talk about your feelings. Her coach helps her understand that it's okay to talk about your feelings and to express what's coming up for you. That she's not alone, that other people are feeling like this too. And once she starts talking about how she's feeling and sharing this, she will discover that she's actually not alone. So when she gets home that evening, she gives her colleague, her friend, who is also a personal assistant at the same company, a call, and she starts to share with her openly about how she's feeling. In fact, about how she's felt for quite a long time and what's come up for her when she found out about the promotion that morning. As they get talking, she soon learns that her colleague, her friend, another personal assistant, also has very similar feelings. Those feelings of doubt, insecurity, not feeling that they're enough, worry that they're going to be caught out and be seen as a fraud, and just all of those feelings which have been keeping Sandra stuck for so many years. So as she has this conversation with her friend, her colleague Kate, she realises that, wow, she's not alone, and actually it's really good to talk, to acknowledge her feelings. And she feels that she's made a step forward in battling and overcoming, in addressing imposter syndrome. So the second key point that her coach supports her in understanding is remind yourself of your accomplishments. So her coach reminds her that, or encourages her to create an achievement box, an achievement list, an achievement folder, something where she can write down all of her achievements, all of her wins, from something someone said to her in terms of what she did well, or an achievement in terms of an award that she won, or a course that she completed, or a project that she excelled at work. So she goes out on Saturday morning to her local stationery company and buys a beautiful notepad. Sandra is a big lover of stationery. So she's brought this notepad and she's going to use this notepad specifically to write down all of her accomplishments. So she starts to look at her CV, she starts to reflect on all of the projects that she's worked on over the years, what others have said to her. And when she starts writing, oh my God, she cannot stop. She's writing down so many achievements. And she realizes that in fact, she has achieved so much more than what she thought she had. And she realizes that she can start owning her success, that she is capable, more capable than she gives herself credit for. And she slowly starts to realize why her boss has put her forward for this role. And she slowly starts to step into feeling more confident and owning her success, which is a huge, huge win for Sandra. And those feelings of imposter syndrome, worried that she's going to get caught out as a fraud, start to slowly dissipate as she starts to feel more positive and more confident about stepping into this new role, this promotion. Next thing her coach supports her with is update your language. Her coach encourages her to rein in the doubt and be aware of some of the statements that she's saying, such as, this probably isn't of interest to you. I know this is a stupid question. It might just be me. And she encourages Sandra to be more assertive and be more confident in the things that she says. Because as you step into that new feeling of confidence and you practice it more and more, it actually makes you feel more confident and it becomes more natural. And it breaks that pattern of playing down and not owning her responsibilities. So she starts to change her language. She starts to journal out her thoughts around what's come up for her about getting this promotion. So she gets a journal notepad out and she starts to write down for a good 20 minutes or so all of the thoughts and emotions that have come up for her around taking on this promotion. Now, when she stops and reads back through those accomplishments or those thoughts and fears, everything that she's written down, in fact, she realizes that actually, and she has the awareness, there are so many negative thoughts there. But this exercise really helped her because it managed to get the negative thoughts out of her head. And once they're out of her head, she can see them, she can read them, and she could dismiss them. So she starts highlighting, crossing off the negative thoughts that she doesn't believe in anymore and starts to reframe them and write the positive beliefs instead. So the next thing that a coach supports her in understanding is she can reframe her story. So what does her coach mean by that exactly? Well, her coach encourages her and supports her in understanding that she can change her story at any point. She can celebrate her accomplishments rather than brushing them off and saying that they're insignificant. So Sandra starts to write out her career story, her personal story about how she got to where she is now and who she is as an executive assistant. She refers back to her accomplishment list and really lets herself shine as she writes out her new story. And she decides to accept this new story and let go of the old story. It feels so empowering for her that she can have this new story, that she can change the old story and she can step into being a new Sandra. It's so powerful for her. The last thing her coach teaches her is imposter syndrome is a symptom of success, not failure. So what does her coach mean by this? Well, she means that many people have imposter syndrome, from actors, musicians, authors, and CEOs of FTSE 100 companies. That she's not alone, and that in fact, imposter syndrome is a sign of success. Feeling like you're going to get caught out is actually a sign that you're actually doing the right thing, you're going in the right direction. So Sandra decides that she wants to get intentional with her success and creates a morning routine. She decides to get up half an hour early every day and build a morning routine which is going to serve her for the day. She decides that she wants to start the day how she ends the day. So she starts it with writing down 3 things that she's really grateful for. And she doesn't just write them down, she really feels into them. Like, what does it mean to feel grateful for this? And it's simple things like enjoying a beautiful herbal tea in her favourite mug, enjoying the silence of the morning, other than the birds tweeting outside in her garden. She really steps into feeling like that. And she soon realises that actually you can't feel positive and practice gratitude and feel negative thoughts at the same time. So that's really empowering for her. She also discovers and puts into practice affirmations and mantras. So she has one that she uses all the time, which is I am an excellent, successful executive assistant. She creates other mantras and she reminds herself of them throughout the day when the self-doubt starts to creep in. And over time, it starts to reprogram her mind for success and it starts to diminish the imposter syndrome, which had taken hold for so long. So Sandra has learned so much from her coach and she is now feeling 100 times better. She goes back into the office on Monday. She has a chat with her boss about the promotion and tells him how excited she is and how that she feels that she is really ready and she's really excited to move forward in her career, and she thanks him for the opportunity. So I just want to recap the 3 points that we've gone over. Firstly is, what is imposter syndrome? So we covered feelings of inadequacy, thoughts that come up from a place of fear, how the body goes into fight and flight, how the brain likes to protect us from shame, embarrassment and rejection, and how we go into a stress response when we start telling ourselves those internal stories in our head. Next, we looked at the symptoms of imposter syndrome, such as doubting your abilities, feeling like a fraud, worried that you're going to get caught out, not owning your success, and attributing your success to others. The last point we looked at was how to address imposter syndrome. And we covered acknowledging and talking about your feelings, reminding yourself of your accomplishments, updating your language, reframing your story, and recognizing and acknowledging that imposter syndrome is actually a sign of success, not a sign of failure. So that's us coming to the end of this session, but I just wanted to let you know or just get across that imposter syndrome doesn't ever really go away. It's always with us, but there are strategies that you can use to get a handle and address the imposter syndrome so that you can start owning your success in your career and move forward. So I look forward to hearing how you get on with these different strategies and which one resonates with you the most. I also want to take a couple of minutes just to share with you about my story of imposter syndrome. Now, when I first set up as a coach for executive assistants and started getting paid clients in, I felt such a sense of responsibility. People were paying me to help them, and I had a huge imposter syndrome. I felt that I didn't know enough, that I wasn't good enough. I'd over prepare for every single session and go into the session with doubt, and I didn't really own my confidence and own myself in my space as a coach. I was constantly reading books, listening to podcasts, feeling that I never knew enough. Feeling or just waiting for my clients to realize that actually there's better coaches out there for them and that I'm actually not a good coach. I did lots of things, including some of the strategies which I've shared with you today. The one that helped the most was to look back at my achievements, my wins, my successes. So for me, that was reminding myself that at the end of each coaching session, my clients said it was a great session, they got so much from it, it really helped, and reading back on the testimonials. So if you'd like to find more out about me, you can check me out on my website, which is suzieflynn.com, connect with me over on LinkedIn, or check me out on Facebook at Suzie Flynn Coaching.